Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome back to The Virus, episode 65. Yeah, it's good to be back. Even though it's been a week, it always feels like it's weird how some of them busy weeks makes it seem like 2 weeks have gone by, but it's actually only been 1 week. So, welcome back. My name is Ben. I'm your host for The Virus, and if this is your first time here, then a little bit about the podcast here is basically I talk a lot about self-improvement and current events and anything that's on my mind. I usually have a contagious combo, a review section, a viral viewpoint section, do a couple quick rants if I choose that if I feel like I need to. And then, because I definitely have rants, I always write down the rants through the week. And then I got a quick question of the day at the end of the segment, at the end of the podcast episode. So yeah, that's pretty much the full structure of the podcast. So stick around. I see a lot of people. It's funny because I can see all the viewers and the people that pop in and out of the podcast, and it's always like 2 or 3, and it diminishes down, 5, 6, down to 2 or 3. So people are just kind of peeking their head in here. Hey, what's going on in here? What's this all about? Yeah, so don't be shy. Stick around. If you got time. Carve out a few minutes to hang out and chit chat with me, give me some of your thoughts, or just kick back and watch and lurk, as I call it. You might actually see something that may be beneficial, might be a complete fucking waste of your time. I don't know. But regardless, I think it's worth sticking around just to give it a shot and see if there's something here that might actually be relevant to you, or something you can kind of connect with. But yeah, a little bit, let's see here. We'll get into the contagious combo here, but first let me plug away where you can find us on our social media platforms. We do live podcast streams on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, and then there's posted content on Spotify, Instagram, and Twitter as well. So go ahead and follow us, give us a like, subscribe, share it. Give us a little bit of love so we can keep this momentum rolling as we get closer to year 1 in doing this podcast. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's my my milestone that is in my head for this podcast is episode 100. I think that is a pretty cool mile marker to hit. The fact that we've done 100 episodes, 2 hours a piece. Some of these episodes have been 2.5 hours, so it's quite a bit of hours. It's a good amount of time that's been invested into this so far. And so I think it's kind of cool as we get to the first year, where it might be 70 some episodes by the time we hit the 1 year mark, which is I think it might be this month, actually. I have to check on that. It might be May, though. I have a feeling it's in May, so I'll double check that. But super exciting for me. Like I said, we don't have like 1 million followers. This isn't Joe Rogan's podcast. This isn't Adam Carolla show. This isn't the Ben Shapiro podcast or anything like that. But I still have fun doing this. I'm going to keep doing it just because a lot of these topics I don't have many people to talk to about, except for people that are. Well, particularly the self-improvement topics I always talk about. It's kind of hard for anybody to relate to that, with me anyway, in my close circle. And so it's nice to kind of just lay this out, vent it out, and try to really connect with people on a digital platform and kind of get my reach expanded in that regard. Which is why I went to the Growth Conference. I wanted to be surrounded by a ton of individuals who are on the same mindset path as me, and a bunch of entrepreneurs, a bunch of people striving to be business owners, and all were in fact business owners. Some of them super successful, some of them still on that journey to hit their success goals in their life. So yeah, super cool for me to be a part of that and to keep continuing to project that mentality out there. So that being said, let's get right into it. Let's get into the contagious combo. And, to that point, the contagious combo is going to be self-improvement related. There's a lot of books that I've read in the last 4 weeks that I haven't been able, and a few audiobooks that I've listened to that I haven't been able to actually review because I've just been playing catch up. There's just a ton of catch up that I've been trying to do. And so I think it'd be good to kind of chip away at this. The first book that I've been kind of slowly reviewing is the Be Obsessed or Be Average book by Grant Cardone. And I finished that one first and then started listening to the audiobooks of Stefan Aarnio. And you've probably heard me talk about him as well. I started by Money People Deal, started with that book. And then I went and listened to the Self-Made book, the 10 Commandments of Negotiations. And then the fourth book I read of his was, what was that? I'm drawing a blank on that. It's really hard to remember all these titles. They just pound through them so quick. The 10, it'll come to me later. But anyways, all these books I need to review. There's so much content, and it's not like I have a ton of notes on these two. Thankfully, I've written it down because it's just way too much information coming at me, and it's all valuable. It's all stuff I want to retain. So in order for me personally, I would even argue it's probably the same for a lot of you guys and girls. You got to write it down. You know what I mean? The stuff that's written down is going to sink in a little bit more, and you listen to it, you write it down, you read your own writing, and it seems to stick a little bit more. And then you even talk about it a little bit later because now you've cycled through it 4 times at that point. And so for me, when I do that, it sticks in quite a bit. It sticks to me quite a bit. So, but yeah, just a few. Let's get into this because this is stuff that I highly value. This is stuff that's important to me, and it should be to you. It should be to it should be to everybody. As far as I know, it should definitely be important to people who want to do more, who want to actually attain more, who want to be able to be in a position where they can help friends, family, anybody who needs help. I mean, there's a ton of reasons why self-improvement should be, the very top of the list of things that you value. All right. And let's just get right to it. So some of these quotes straight out of the book, I just wrote them down from Grant Cardone. In order to grow, you need to have doubt and fear play a part of your life. All right. Let's just talk about that for a second before I just pound through all of these bullet points and these quotes that he went through. What he means by that is, in order to grow, you need to acknowledge the doubt and fear and make it play a part in your life, right? It always plays a part in your life, but how is it playing a part in your life? I think I was just talking to some friends about this. I think it was yesterday. I feel like it was yesterday. We were talking about, how I was talking about how we all have fear. We all have doubt. We all have worry. We all have these things going on in us. And what really makes a person be outstanding and overachieve and actually just be better and better is how you handle all those things that are just, penetrating your mind. These are all just natural things. These are all things that we all have, we all experience, and they're just, they can be annoying, they can be frustrating, or you can turn that into something and you can recognize it and you can use it as triggers to actually do something. And what I mean by that is, me personally, let's use myself as an example. When I'm afraid of something, I immediately acknowledge it, and then I usually do what needs to be done to overcome that fear, which usually means going head on with whatever it is that's making me scared. And so it's funny because the people crack me up when they say they're not scared. The big tough guys, the big muscle bound dudes who got the big biceps and they lift a ton of weights and all that. Maybe even not them, just the guys that like to really their posture quite a bit, the toughness. They like the posture of toughness. They like to say that they're not scared of things. It's a complete fucking lie. Like, everybody's scared. And there's a lot of power in that when you acknowledge that you're actually scared of things. Now, what's even more powerful is when you acknowledge that what you're scared of and you face it and you go head on with it. Because a lot of the things that we are fearful of is not anything physical. It's not physically a physical friction of any kind. It usually is all mental. Almost all of our endeavors, all of our struggles, it's all mental. And so when you can face that, it feels like a tremendous jump that you've made and a huge achievement that you've gained from actually facing this thing that you were once afraid of, and now you've powered through it. And so it's funny because a lot of people they know this, but they don't want to hear it, which is, it could be why I keep seeing people pop in and out of this chat, because they pop in thinking that it's going to be something fun, or I don't know. It's not so fun all the time to talk about this serious stuff that I'm talking about, but it is necessary and it is beneficial for someone who wants to actually be better than they are. But that is my suspicion when people pop in and pop out, because I've literally just watched a ton of people do this right now, and it kind of cracks me up. They probably sit here and they hear me talking about self-improvement. They hear me talking about specifically fear and doubt and all these things that I'm talking about and facing all this, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, dude. And they're just not ready for it, maybe. You know, to be honest, I've heard some of this stuff years ago too, but I just wasn't at a point in my life where I was ready. I just thought, I was a knucklehead. Let's just put it that way. And a lot of people probably are at that point. Everybody hits a point in their life at different ages where they're like, you know what? I've been treading water for years. I've been here for so long, and I feel like I could be doing more. And then you got the people that lie to themselves also, that, they like to, even myself, I use myself as an example. I lied to myself also. I did have a lot of things that I've achieved in my average life, but I could be doing more. And I never really acknowledged that part of it. Instead, I like to fluff myself up and kind of stroke my own image by thinking to myself like, oh, I've actually accomplished quite a bit. But the fact is, when you start telling yourself that stuff and you start patting yourself on the back, you kind of give up a little bit, and you don't look for the next thing. You don't think to yourself, all right, what's next? And for me personally, I'm always on that kick now. It's like, okay, what's next? What is next? What do I do now? You've done this, on to the next thing. Let's just keep creating goals to hit and writing them down. Like, writing these things down is pretty helpful for me personally. I used to think that writing goals down once or twice a year and putting it on my wall next to my bed was sufficient, but I'm going to start taking it a little bit further, which I have been in the last couple months, and starting to write this down. It's really hard for me. I'll be honest. It's really hard for me to write it every day, like Grant Cardone likes to do, apparently. But I am getting in the habit of doing it once a week. And so even that, I can see the value in that, because what you're doing is you're making that be on the forefront of your mind. Because life is distracting. It completely is. And especially going through like the mundane motions of life, it'll really derail you and distract you from your long-term goals and the things that you want to be involved in or achieve long-term, for longevity, for the future, for residual effects. And when you're just constantly in a box of life going through that stuff just diminishes, and not on purpose. It's just you got so many distractions coming in life, and then social media, family, friends, business, jobs. Things are just constantly trying to, things are always grabbing for your attention. And like I said, social media is definitely one of them. And so I always like to balance out my social media with, when we're talking about this now, it's kind of a different topic, but it just kind of came to my mind. But social media, the way I like to treat it is, I think it was Gary Vee that I heard talk about this a couple years ago, about how he was talking about a consumption to creating, consumption and creation pendulum balance. We should approach social media that way, where you should always look to create before you consume anything, and or make sure you're creating much more than you're actually consuming. And what you are consuming, he didn't really say this part, I'm just thinking of this part, but whatever you are consuming, make sure it's valuable, make sure it's something relevant to what you want to apply into your life. Make sure it's something valuable, instead of just scrolling through feeds and watching people do TikTok videos all day, or something that just has no value. You're scrolling through it and an hour goes by and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck did I just do with my life? And I've been guilty of that too, trust me. But I recognize that. I'm like, okay, this is distracting, and that's an hour of my time I will never get back. So, yeah, that's just another thing I just thought about. So, going back to what I originally was talking about, though, in fear and doubt and worry and pessimism playing a part of your life, don't let it play a negative part of your life. Treat it as something that you know needs to be done, right? As soon as you're afraid of something, start looking at it and thinking to yourself, okay, what can I do? Literally, like very specifically, think about what action you can take to overcome this fear, like immediately. Don't keep it vague, like, oh, I could start doing this soon. I could start doing this maybe. You need to be very specific in what action that needs to be taken to at least start that step in punching right through that fear, that thing that's making you afraid. And yeah, that's the tactic I use anyway. And trust me, that specific skill right there is something that I've started doing heavily in the last 3 years. I started doing it 5 years ago when I quit my 10-year job. That was probably like a transitional, pivotal it's a hard word, pivotal motion action in my life is when I quit my 10-year job. I was absolutely frightened, absolutely afraid of doing that. Didn't know why I was doing it. Like there was a lot of fear. Trust me, you want to talk about the fear and the doubt and the concern, it was there, especially for someone like me who was very risk overt, didn't take a lot of risks. I didn't put myself in a questionable situation much. I really enjoyed being in that little comfy area where it was just nice and easy, nothing changed. I got paid the same, which, God, it just really disgusts me to think about that right now. But that's where I was. And so, yeah, that was just using my life as an example 5 years ago. That was my big fear, and it felt so good to actually overcome that. Even though I started a business with somebody for 2 years that actually failed, and I landed back on my face and started from zero again. I'm still glad I did that and went through that. Even that 2 years of wasted time, I'm kind of glad that I went through that whole experience as well, because I learned a ton. It was not fun. It was, matter of fact, it was very hard. Physically and mentally, it was a lot. It took a lot out of me to go through that 2-year experience. But after those 2 years went by, I had to reset once again. And it was during that time where I really realized, like, holy shit, I first faced my fear, my biggest fear of quitting my job that I had for 10 years, same company. And I'm still here. I've still made it. I still have a lot of hope, and I still feel like I can accomplish a lot. And so I realized that facing my fear is what I should still keep doing, and do it more often, because I still would kind of not face my fear, even though I faced such a huge fear and a doubt at that point. So yeah, the last 3 years really ramped up. I've been put in a lot of positions where fears presented itself by my own doing, because we're just, like I said, we're just naturally that way. Fear and doubt just comes into our mind. We're human. But then I've also been in a lot of situations where people have tried to put fear into me. And you'll recognize this too. It comes off in many forms. It'll happen aggressively. People try to put you in fear aggressively, or they'll do it passively too. Passively is probably the most dangerous, because sometimes you don't always recognize it, and sometimes it comes from friends and family, and that's the most dangerous type of fear inception that you may experience. It's from friends and family, and I don't even think they realize they're doing it. They've just been conditioned to be negative and project the negativity just out of habit, just out of being conditioned through years. And I've been in that position where I've done that too, where I've projected negativity, whether it's complaining about something, having these dumb sayings that I pick up from the older guys I used to work with in the construction industry, like, you can't win for losing, things like that. Like these are, I mean, I have a whole list written somewhere of these dumb ass sayings that are so negative, and they're just so debilitating when it's accumulated over time. And so yeah, that's just a couple forms of how people put fear into. So recognize that too, because yes, you have your own fears and doubts you put in yourself, but then now you got other people that are compounding that by trying to project their fears and doubts and trying to validate your fears and doubts by projecting that much negativity onto you. And so I recognize that very easily now, and thankfully I don't surround myself with people who do that anymore. And if they do, I recognize it and I let it be known very quickly to them that I don't operate that way. And matter of fact, I don't even appreciate that mentality around me. It's funny because I will call people out on that negativity stuff whenever it's around me. And like I said, thankfully it's not common for me. My circle's pretty small and tight, you know, from my band members, all good dudes, to the people I work with, even all good dudes as well. You know, and sometimes I got to kind of point out the negativity stuff to those guys too, you know, let them know like, hey man, just keep a positive attitude. Don't let that shit get to your head. You know, just focus on doing a good job and having a positive outcome. And so, yeah, there, you know, it's just not in my life as much as it used to be. And so I can remember back when that stuff was just real penetrating and lingering, and it's just bad vibes, so let's get into the next quote. So that's kind of just my opinion and my interpretation of that quote that Grant Cardone said, in order to grow, you need to have doubt and fear play a part in your life. And so that was kind of my example, using my life as far as how I interpreted that. The other one he says here is he would rather have people think less of them than him think less of myself. So yes, I would rather have people think less of me than me think less of myself. And a lot of, you know, you might be thinking to yourself like, what does that even mean? Or why would you want to think less of yourself? You know, or why would you want people to think less of you? Because it's good practice to get in the habit of not giving a fuck what other people think about you. There's really no other way to say it. You know, it's pretty liberating when you get in that mindset. Now, a lot of people, they go down the slippery slope on this term where they say, you know, I've had this conversation with a lot of people where they'll say, well, you know, you need to care what people think about you. It's on some level. Yes, that's kind of true, but not to the point to where it dictates. So where it gets unhealthy is when you're a people pleaser. This is what I'm talking about. When you are a people pleaser all the way to the point to where you don't even think, you're taking more actions because of what people think of you. All right, you're reacting to what other people think of you, and that is not. That's where it gets real unhealthy, is when you start going down that path, because you don't even realize you're doing it. And again, you are conditioning yourself at that point and you don't even know it. And so that's just something to be aware of. And that's kind of what he means by, you know, he would rather think less of, have people think less of him than him think of himself. You want to feel good about yourself. You want to be positive, feel good. And it's funny. That's half the reason why I dress pretty decent. You know, I don't always wear a tie, but I always feel really good when I wear a suit and a tie. And you should, I mean, it's funny, all the not compliments even. Well, I get compliments too, but the remarks that I'll get, even the remarks I get are a little bit negative too. Some of the most common remarks I'll hear is, what, are you going to a wedding? You know, I've heard that. I think I heard that just the other day, probably 2 or 3 times in one day from different people. And it's, you know, I always wonder, I kind of like to analyze things and think like, why do they say that? because they only wear, I mean, I guess I only wore a suit when I was in a wedding too. My answer is the same, like, because I want to look good and I want to feel good. Do I need to look good to feel good? No, but it makes me feel better. So I'm going to do things that make me feel better. You know, I don't need to wear a suit to feel better, but it makes me feel better. I like wearing a suit. I like looking nice. I like feeling like, you know, I care about myself so much to the point to where I dress up. It takes a lot of time. You know, I'm groomed well. You know, it's actually a biological, there's a biological element to that too, to where whoever is dressed the nicest in a room, the nicest dressed people, you know, there's a biological animalistic part to that people don't even realize. But in fact, you know, those people come off as a person in a position of power, someone who actually has authority, someone who can make decisions, someone who actually has their shit together even, you know, and the one it's just like the animal kingdom. The one who is most groomed is the one who's looked at and admired and getting a lot of attention. And yes, I do want attention, not to be looked at. I want to have attention to, you know, just to network with people in general. I like people. I like communicating with people. I like meeting good people. I like meeting people who are similar. I like having conversations. And so, yeah, a lot of this stuff, it's funny. The average person just doesn't want to. And again, me talking like this doesn't mean that I haven't been an average person. Like, I probably still would be considered an average person. I'm still an average person on a journey to being better, you know, and some may consider me not average. You know what I mean? I do a lot, like, not to pat myself on the shoulder, but I do a lot. You know, there's not a lot of people that are running a business, being a full-time parent, doing 2 podcasts, and in a full-time band all at once. Those 5 things together consume a lot of my time. And I'd like to think that there's not too many people out there doing all those things simultaneously in their life. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm an overachiever, just because I like to keep the things that I value and in my life that I'm passionate about as well. And yeah, I don't do those things because I want people to, I want to people please. I do a lot of that stuff because I enjoy it. I feel good. You know, it could be said that I do this podcast because I want to people please. Yes, but there's also a selfish factor to it as well. I just enjoy talking to people. I like airing out my thoughts on the air, even if there's nobody watching the podcast. Like, I don't think anybody's watching right now. And that's fine. Like, I still enjoy talking and practicing and still having a conversation about the things that are on my mind. This is still beneficial to me. Talking to a camera, talking to a phone. These are things I do in my life that I've gotten better at and that are necessary, especially with the digital world, the way that the digital world is going. You know, being able to actually communicate to a screen and break down the fourth wall, as they call it, is a skill. It is a skill. And if you look at a lot of my earlier videos, you'll see that it's a skill, because you'll see a lot of me, you'll see the uncomfort in me, and you'll see the uncomfort in a lot of people that just aren't used to doing those type of videos as well. So yeah, I will continue to do it because I want to be better, and it's something that's applicable to my life. I gotta take a drink of this. I got some dry throat right now. All right. So yeah, that kind of covers the quote that he said in be obsessed or be average, which is he'd rather have people think less of him than him think less of himself. So on to the next quote. The only way to avoid risk is to take risk. Now, this may sound confusing, and even when I hear it, it sounds confusing to my mind. I'm like, wait a sec. To avoid risk, you gotta take risk. I think I know what he's saying, and again, this is all open to interpretation. My interpretation of hearing that is you're putting yourself at huge risk by not taking any risk. the only way to actually progress and get better and put yourself in a better position mentally, financially, just, in general, just in a better position, is to start taking risks to get you further and further and further up the ladder. Staying stagnant, treading water, doing the same thing, being comfortable is much more risky, and I truly believe that as well. So I completely agree with that statement and understand what he's trying to say by saying that the only way to avoid risk is to take risk. And that's how I interpreted it, is that if you stay in the same spot, which is not even what you think is staying in the same spot, is actually getting worse. And you've heard me talk about this too. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. And that's nothing I thought of. That's something I learned from David Goggins and Grant Cardone, which are my two main mentors. And so they both said that, and I totally agree. And looking back on my life, that's completely true. And a lot of us think that we can stay the same. They think like, okay, yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable with this, and this is normal, and this is average, and I'm okay with that. The fact of the matter is, if you're focused on that, you're actually getting worse. You're getting worse and worse. You're getting worse in your finances. You're getting worse in your relationships. You're getting worse in life in general. Just every aspect is getting worse. Unless you're focused on making it better, it's getting worse. It's one or the other. It's going forward or backward. You're not staying the same. And so that's the risk he's talking about. By thinking that you're staying the same, you're putting yourself at risk because you're just getting worse and worse. And let's just use money as an example. Since people put a big focus on money and finances, and this world is revolved around currency, which is money. Let's talk about money. If you're working a minimum wage job and you only have a certain amount of money, you're living paycheck to paycheck, which most of us are, 76% of us in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck and don't even have $1,000 saved up in case of an emergency. Hey, what's up, Parker? Welcome, my friend. Did I used to listen to Opie and Anthony? I don't think so. Those names didn't ring a bell, man. Why don't you enlighten me though? Who is that? But let's talk about money for a second. So yeah, let's just say you're focused on being content with the minimum wage income, right? The second you have an emergency happen, let's just say you have a huge medical expense that comes up, right? And it's going to cost $20,000 or something. You ain't going to have the money to do that. And trust me, that's just one emergency example. The engine in the car goes out. Let's say you're driving a used car that has high miles. All of a sudden the engine goes out. Oh shit. Now you need to figure out how to get a new car and or come up with $6,000, $9,000 to put a new engine in it or whatever it is. It's going to require money. Now, had you put yourself in a better position, to better your finances, you would have taken that. The risk would have been much lower. You would have had some money saved up potentially, at least had maybe some credit built. You would have outs. You would have options. But by being at the bare minimum, you're limiting your options, and you're putting yourself at risk by putting yourself in danger with emergencies and things that come up unexpectedly. And they come up quite a bit. They're going to come up unexpectedly if you're working bare minimum. They're going to come up unexpectedly if you're overachieving things as well. Now, I was just talking about, who was I talking to? One of my buddies about this. He was talking about big problems and small problems. And I can't remember exactly the context in which it was brought up, but I pointed out the fact that, like, if you have big giant problems going on in your life, that's a good sign that you're doing things right. Big problems and a lot of people might not agree with me on that, and they don't probably understand what I'm saying. But basically what I was saying is you don't want little boring ass little problems that, those petty problems. That's a sign that you're not doing well, and that you're having to deal with these petty little problems when if you're in a better situation, these little problems could be dealt with quicker and you can put your focus on the bigger problems. All right. And that's what I mean by that, because I guess Biggie Smalls said it best, right? More money, more problems. It's not even necessarily the money, but that's kind of relevant too, right? He was actually right. Like the more busier you get, the more things you introduce into your life, the bigger the problems you're going to have, the more frequently you're going to have the problems. But these are problems that are, at that point I would hope that you kind of are ready to just deal with problems. Usually the people that put themselves in a position where they are gaining more problems, usually they're ready for it and they kind of almost look forward to it, and they're used to it. They're callous. They understand that's just part of the game. That's how I approach it now. I'm a problem solver, and so when those problems come up, I actually it's so weird because I used to avoid those type of things, but in fact I enjoy it so much because you come out feeling better, and you come out being appreciated a little bit more by whoever you have to solve the problem for. I do this quite a bit, matter of fact. In the home, I bet it's like this in a lot of industries. I know it is. A lot of sales industries, but yeah, in my industry, which is home improvement for my main business, I'm putting out fires all the time. There's all kinds of things that come up. Delay in the manufacturer, delay here. Usually it's delays. Delays here, delays for this reason, projects not going the way as planned. There's a mistake on the job site. I've got to put out fires quite a bit. And the way I do it is I get in front of that problem immediately and I address it. And I don't do it by emails. I don't do it by text messaging. I pick up the phone and I call these people. It's funny how I'm still doing this, right? I guess we don't really do this shit anymore. But yeah, I call them. I'm like, hey, how's it going? I seen your email, I seen your text, and I wanted to figure out, let's get this figured out. I understand your concern, but we got a solution for this. So let's think this out and let's figure out what the best course of action is going to be to rectify this immediately, because we want to get this taken care of as soon as possible. And when you do that, you get a lot of respect from people, because they're like, holy shit, this person's, he's a problem solver. And I have a problem and he wants to solve it. And it's not even about people pleasing. It's more of a selfish thing. A lot of this shit is selfish. For me personally, this is stuff these are my own skills that I like to build. I like feeling good about myself for helping other people. Yes, I like helping people as well. But I also like feeling good about myself, knowing that hey, I just jumped in front of a problem. We solved it. We got through that. And the byproduct of that is they're happy. They got value out of that. It's a win-win. We all feel good. This is great. And it's such a benefit to when you approach things with a problem-solving attitude, a can-do attitude, a will-do attitude, a no-problem attitude. Things get done, as opposed to looking for excuses. Coming up with reasons why they didn't get done, why they can't get done. I talked a lot about this with my daughter. It's weird because if you don't catch it and nip it in the butt, it'll continue. And, she'll say, I can't. She'll start her sentences with I can't sometimes. And usually I'll catch it right off the bat. I'm like, oh, don't say that. Do not start your sentences with I can't, please. We don't do that, and you know that. But I think it was just a few days ago she did this. She said I can't a few times in the same day. I was like, Malia, I already told you earlier not to say that anymore. I was like, let's really work on that. Let's really focus on that. And she'll catch herself too. She's like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. And it's just we don't realize how negative those words are to our internal dialogue. And then when you voice it out, it's especially bad for your mentality. And so yeah, it's just not a can-do attitude when you sit there and say I can't quite a bit. So and then come up with excuses and ways to not actually take accountability for things that may or may not be your fault. So yeah, there's just a lot of growth in that too. I've talked, you guys have heard me talk a lot about accountability and how I have a disgusting amount of accountability. I've talked with my friend recently about this, about looking for ways to be accountable on things. Because everything in your life that's happened to you, it is your fault. You know, there's very rare cases where it's not your fault. Even if it's not, you should still look deep and see if there's a way that you can take accountability of that scenario, because there's just a lot of growth in that. And actually, more times than not, you will find out that when you dig deep and you look into that scenario a little bit more, go into the past and what led up to that point, more times than not, you're going to find out like, holy shit, I can be held accountable for that. If I would have done this, I would have done that. If I would have made this decision at this time, I would never even be in this position right now. And there is a ton of growth in that mentality and approaching things that come up in your life like that. Trust me, try it out. Try it out. Give it a shot. All right. So that was my interpretation of, GC's statement that the only way to avoid risk is to take risk. I absolutely love that statement. And breaking it down the way I interpret it, I hope that makes sense to you guys. And again, it's subjective. It can mean something different to all of us. Let's talk about the last thing on the list here. The last thing for today anyway, right out of the Be Obsessed or Be Average book. Commit yourself to the feeling of discomfort. Commit yourself to the feeling of discomfort. That is huge. This is huge. And this ties into the things we talked about earlier. The doubt, the fear, you need to have fear and doubt play a positive part in your life. All this is relative. Committing yourself to the feeling of discomfort. It's relative to, taking risks. All this can be tied together. It really can. These are just different ways of saying it. And the reason for that, I think, is because it's just going to sink in. People hear things differently. Sometimes they need to hear things a certain way before it actually resonates with them. Sometimes they need to write it down 10 times before it resonates with them. We're all different. We all operate differently. We all absorb information differently. We all learn differently. And so this is a good saying. Commit yourself to the feeling of discomfort. Like literally make a commitment to yourself. Like, okay, what makes me uncomfortable? Let me just commit right now that all these things make me, I'm going to feel this. I'm going to put myself in these situations and I'm going to feel this. And you're basically making a self-commitment that you're going to expect it. You already know what to expect. There's no surprises. I mean, there is surprises, but it's not as surprising as you trying to avoid it. And then discomfort rears its ugly head in your life. And you're like, oh my God, woe is me. And you're shocked and you don't know how to handle it. You run from it. You smoke weed, you drink, you do drugs, whatever it is that you do to deal with the discomfort feeling, right? Play video games even. I mean, there's a ton of vices that people do to get away from that feeling of discomfort, and acknowledging it and making that commitment that like, I'm going to put myself in this feeling of discomfort because that's the only way I'm going to actually learn how to deal with it. So I think that's huge. Making that commitment. First of all, I think self-commitments in general are huge. And so when I heard him say, commit yourself to the feeling of discomfort, I thought that was very valuable advice because, I have friends too. I have one of my good friends tell me, he's honest, very honest, and I asked him, hey, why don't you do this? And he just flat out told me like, that's outside my comfort zone, dude. And I was like, yeah, all right. I was like, well, I hope you can move past that. You know what I mean? I do appreciate the honesty. Not a lot of people are usually honest about that even though. So that's definitely a first step for somebody's acknowledging like, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. The next bigger step though is to be like, okay, I don't want to be so uncomfortable with this. At least I want to be able to handle the uncomfort a little bit. I want to feel better about the discomfort, right? And that's, I guess, what we're talking about right now. When you feel good about discomfort because you know you're going to feel better about it after you power through it, I think that's what we're talking about here. And again, goes back to the growth. There's just a huge amount of growth in that when you do that. So yeah, look for ways to be uncomfortable, and think about how you're going to handle it too. Like what specific steps are you going to take when this discomfort happens? All right. And that's the commitment he's talking about. At least that's the commitment I imagine, and that it's, using myself as an example again, we were talking about how fear, that fear and doubt need to play a part in your life, and probably particularly speaking, a positive part in your life. It needs to play a positive part in your life. I committed to, when I, using myself as an example, I made the commitment that whenever something makes me afraid, whenever I feel that feeling of being afraid of something, I'm going to go directly at it. I'm going to go right after it, whatever it is. And this has came up many, many times in my life, particularly in the last 3 years. As far as I can think of all these moments that are just coming in my head where things have just made me, little things and big things, just on a whole spectrum. There's a lot of things that I'm afraid of, but there's a ton of things that I overcame. There was nothing I went into retreat on. There was nothing I contracted on. There was nothing I shied away from. There was nothing I didn't address, didn't face. And that makes me feel really good. And I feel really proud of myself to be able to say, like, hey, all the things that presented itself to fear, try to put that fear into me, whether it was an actual person trying to put fear into me, whether it was a person trying to put fear into me aggressively or passively, whether it was a scenario that created fear in me, all those 3 reasons, I powered through it and I went right after it, and I came out the other side. And it usually always came out in my favor. Usually. And the reason for that is because I had the confidence to go through it. And by the way, speaking of confidence, when you power through that fear with consistency, your confidence level just boosts. It's like leveling up like on a video game. Your XP bar goes up and up. And that feels really good. It feels really good. They feel like $1 million. You feel like you're ready for the fears. The fears are just coming at you and you're just stiff arming them. And it just becomes a practice and repetition at that point. So yeah, I've gotten finally to a place where fear does not bother me. It's a feeling. And when I recognize the feeling, I know what to do. I have a game plan. I have a playbook. And so, yeah, that's one commitment that I've made to myself of committing myself to the feeling of discomfort. And in this case, my discomfort was the fear. I faced it. I've always been doing that now. And it's paid off very tremendously. And it will continue to do that. Okay. Well, that kind of wraps up the Contagious Combo section. So let's... and I hope that was valuable. I mean, there's a lot to take in there. Some of that might seem boring, especially to the person that's not ready to work on themselves. It's definitely boring. The average this stuff is not going to appeal to the person that wants to be average, to the person that thinks, oh, well, I'm perfectly happy. The person that's lying to themselves. The person that likes to say, those cute little sayings like money doesn't buy happiness. I'm perfectly fine with just this amount here. I don't need that much to make me happy. There's a ton of sayings that are just completely false that we like to fluff ourselves with, and we hear from other people, and we've been conditioned to repeat this regurgitated nonsense that keeps us mediocre, keeps us average, keeps us in poverty, keeps us in that 76% of living paycheck to paycheck. This shit is not going to appeal to those people unless they actually identify that in their own life and say, okay, I think I might actually not be doing what I'm fully capable of. It's those people that want to question that want to challenge themselves, that want to be better, and the people that know, the people that take those suppressed sayings, the real ones in the back of their mind, they're like, they know, like, oh my God, I think I could be doing much more than this. I'm not living to my dreams. I'm not even pursuing my dreams. I've given up on my dreams. Take those out of the back of your head and put them on the forefront of your mindset, and start acknowledging that shit. What can you do to actually start taking action on some of this stuff? Because those are the things you really value. You know, there's smoke and mirrors that's been going on through people's projected negativity that have gotten you distracted. Therefore, you bury those thoughts and those dreams and those things that, you know, like you living to your full potential and being capable of so much more. You just bury those in the back of your head because you might feel out of place around the average people. But I would encourage you to dig deep, pull those out, look for ways to surround yourself around high performance individuals or people that actually care about those things that are truly valuable in your life. I mean, those should be more valuable than anything, because it's going to get you, you know, it's going to allow you to attain the things that you really want in your life. So yeah, but yeah, generally speaking, I can totally understand that the majority of people, for every 10 people that hop on this while I'm talking about stuff like this, self-improvement or reviewing books like Be Obsessed or Be Average, they're going to check out. They're just not going to relate to it. And they're not going to want to. They're probably not ready because they have, the self-talk is not the right type of talk that they're having with themselves. And so I think for every 10 people that listen to this, maybe one, if I'm lucky, 2 people might actually get value out of what I'm saying, or at least just hear it out and kind of let that sink in. If you at least choose to hear this type of stuff and let it sink in, good on you. That means you at least taken a step, right? So yeah, we'll pick some of this back up. Some of this we'll get back to in the viral viewpoint, but first I want to get into the review section, because I think the review section is going to take a little bit of time here. And the first thing I want to say is let's acknowledge. Okay, so let's talk about DMX. All right, you guys may have heard DMX has passed away. In case you don't know who DMX is, he's a rapper. He's an old school rapper. He's definitely, at least for me, you know, I'm 38 years old, and I used to listen to DMX when, God, how old was I? Oh man, I think I was about 17 or 18. I was definitely not even 20 years old. And so I used to listen to a lot of rap when I grew up. I don't listen to too much rap. I'm very picky with my rap nowadays. I'm a metalhead now, but I still appreciate rap, and I like a lot of good rap. That is, not a lot of the newer shit I just can't get into, but definitely a lot of the old school rap. DMX was good. He had a lot of good songs. Let's just talk about DMX for a second. First of all, that guy, you know, and we've all made mistakes. He probably has made mistakes. He probably is not the best individual, you know, a best influential individual, I guess you could say. You know, it could be argued that, you know, whatever, he's a bad individual. I don't think so. In my opinion, I think he's a guy that's definitely made some mistakes, like we all have. I'm not going to knock anybody for making mistakes unless you've actually killed somebody or hurt a child or violated someone. You know, there's a lot in my mind that you can come back from, aside from those 3 things that I just talked about. And I think DMX was a very impactful person, very passionate. If there's one thing that DMX was, it was passionate. That guy showed passion through his lyrics, his writing, and just speaking in general. Whenever you hear that guy talk, he realizes how powerful his message is, and he plays the part. He really emphasized what his beliefs were. He really emphasized what he thought was valuable, what should be valuable. Very religious guy as well. I personally am not a religious individual, but I do appreciate and respect people's passion with religion. The only thing I really don't like too much is when people are so aggressive with trying to push that on you, which again, I'm not against. You can push your, again, I'm all for sales, and people trying to push their religion is sales. So it's just when it's so aggressive, it's like, okay, step back a little bit. And then it's just my own viewpoint on the actual religion itself that kind of seems silly. But this is all my opinion. I still respect and value people's viewpoints when it comes to religion. And so when I hear people have a strong opinion on religion and have a strong viewpoint on religion, I still appreciate that, and I value it, and it's still interesting to me. It's still intriguing to me. And to hear, I used to listen to DMX a lot, and a lot of his lyrics have, he talks a lot about God. He talks a lot about the devil. He talks a lot about, there's this one song, God, I don't remember the name of the title. I think it's called The Omen, actually. The hook on it's like the snake, the rat, the cat, the dog. How you gonna stand when you're living in the fog? Something like that. And I think he even had a remix with Marilyn Manson, which is kind of cool. For its time, especially. Like I said, I was like 18 years old, 19, somewhere around that area. And I thought it was really cool. That particular song, he was having a conversation with, I believe, the devil or one of the devil's disciples. I think he called his name, he called him Damien. He even named him, gave him a character. So he's pretty good at storytelling throughout his writing process, which is really cool too. And so, that particular song was really cool because he would have, conflicting conversations in the rap in a flowy manner. So it was all rhyming, it was all flowing very well. He's having this conversation, fighting these demons, and then here's the devil himself trying to convince him of doing these things. He's like, no, man, I'm going to do this. Why are you trying to do, convince me of this? And then here's this guy coming in, and he's playing both characters, rapping both characters, right? Which is really, really creative, really cool. It's actually some pre-Eminem type stuff. Eminem also started doing that when he first came out. He would play these characters as he's rapping, which was really cool. And that caught my attention with Eminem too. But thinking about it now, DMX was one of the first people to do that for me. I didn't hear too many people doing that. And so, I thought that was really cool. Yeah, he's very creative with the writing process. And the things he talked about, I can resonate with, even the most basic songs he had too. Like I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. That song was pretty cool. It's not even a great, it's not like a very energetic song. His rapping in it is pretty energetic, but the beat is not really upbeat or energetic. But it is creative, and the stuff he talks about, in my opinion, is valuable and of substance. He's talking about struggles. He's talking about, everyday things that people go through, and that stuff is relatable. When people can relate to the stuff you're talking about, it resonates with them, and there's a connection. They don't have to meet you. They just have to understand your mindset, what you're about, what you value, what you've been through, struggles you've been through, how you overcame them, what you're going through now. That's the kind of stuff that people hear and they connect with you immediately. And I definitely connected with him at that time in my life. I listened to a lot of his songs, and I can just think of a lot of songs off the top of my head where the lyrics were just real substantial. Just a lot of good lyrics in it. So anyways, the reason why I'm saying that is because it's really sad everybody dies, and it is what it is, It shouldn't always be a sad thing. It is, unfortunately. I try not to look at death as being a sad thing, but no matter what, it still is sad. You know, it's hard to not shake the fact that this person has left, you know, left behind children and people that he loves. They're never going to see him again, and that's the sad part about it. At least, you know, if you're religious, then you think you will eventually see that person again. But even that being the case, if that is true, you're not going to see that person for some time, years and years and years, and that period of time can seem like an eternity. And I think all of us would probably agree we'd much rather spend time on earth with our loved ones, probably. So it is sad, but you know, I definitely valued the impact. Sorry about that. I forgot to mute my phone. One of my things on my checklist. Shame on me. But yeah, I really valued that guy. I know he fell off the map for a little bit, and then I know he had some drug problems. He was struggling with drugs quite a bit. I seen him on Celebrity Rehab when he was on that episode, and it was really sad to see how he was struggling with, you know, drugs that really, and that's just a common thing in the music industry. You know, people that struggle with drugs, it's just something that they all that they all seem to go through. You know what I mean? That type of lifestyle, it's easy to be influenced onto drugs, and then I imagine it's pretty hard to get off of. I also did drugs at a point in my life, and I can relate. It's tough to get off of. So even with even not in his music, I can relate with that guy. The struggles he had with drugs, you know, I can relate to that. I had struggles with drugs too. Back when I was about 20 years old. We're talking 18 years ago now, but I can relate. I had them, you know, and hopefully it's not something that everybody, you know, that everybody goes through. There's some people that are fortunate and made the smart decision to not ever get involved in drugs, and good on them. They've had some good guidance, and they've made some good choices to not make the choice to actually use any and get involved in that at all. So, but yeah, I can relate with DMX quite a bit. So really sad. Like I said, a very influential person, a very passionate individual, and had a huge impact on people. You know, I mean, there's just no way around it. If you look at all the love that he's getting on Instagram and Facebook, it's very clear that that guy touched a lot of people. He was just a very, I think deep down, he was a good guy. Oh, on a side note, can we, you know, I like to think that the music industry to me is much like the acting industry. You create characters. The things you rap about aren't always necessarily what you believe, how you live your life, what your values are. I know that a lot of people might not agree with me on that. And some artists maybe approach it that way. We're like, okay, I only rap about things that I value, things that are part of my life, things that represent me. There are some artists that do that, but it's really hard to kind of sift through those artists, find out who's trying to project an image, who deliberately projects an image and creates characters and are being a different person on stage and in their music than they actually are in real life. So when people get offended by, you know, lyrics, music, you know, I would just encourage you to, you know, consider the fact that they don't actually live their life like that. They don't think like that normally. They're creating a character. They're entertaining. I think most of them do that, to be honest. I don't think that they, you know, this is how they actually feel or actually, you know, live their life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if, I don't know, maybe Eminem, when he was talking about, you know, a lot of the, you know, when he was kind of gay bashing quite a bit, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe he doesn't like, maybe he's homophobic, maybe he's not. I know that he definitely made some statements throughout his career, like, you know, joining Elton John on stage to, you know, whatever, show that he wasn't homophobic, maybe. You know, it just, but then you can also listen to Eminem's songs, especially the earlier ones on the EP. He was creating characters all the time, and his stories in his raps were completely fictional. So it's hard to say, like, okay, I don't know when this guy, you know, is this guy serious about what he raps about? Is he not? Like, I mean, he's being completely, you know, he's being a clown in this one. He's joking a lot. He's making some harsh references. He's being offensive as shit. But then he's being a little more serious in this one. Like, you can't sit there and nitpick and choose and decide, like, okay, he was serious. I could just see the people with the victim mentality reaching, and the artists are the most vulnerable for that. You know what I mean? Like, try not to look for a way to be offended. Like, first of all, yeah, speaking to the people that have a victim mentality, first of all, acknowledge that you have that mentality. Stop doing it. It's not healthy. You're not helping anybody. You're creating problems, in my opinion. You're definitely not helping yourself. You're never going to progress and advance in life with a victim mentality. You're always going to blame people. You're always going to have this, everybody's out to get me. Everybody's out to rip me off. You're always going to think about the people who have done you wrong. It's just a bad path and a bad mentality to have. It just completely is. And so when we're talking about this in relevance to people's music, I just treat it like these people are entertainers. They're like an actor. You don't look at an actor playing a role in a movie and be like, oh my God, he's literally that. You know, if he's playing a piece of shit in the movie that he's playing in, that doesn't mean he's a piece of shit in real life. Let's just have some common sense here. So treat the music artist the same way. Like, I know for us in our band and our music, we're completely creating fictional events. We're creating this whole concept of different worlds and characters and all these things. It's not real. It's not real. If there's someone that wanted to play a victim and nitpick our stuff and look for something to be offended about, sure, they can find something to be offended about. But that's not a healthy mindset. So I don't know. I've seen a couple people make remarks about, reason I brought that up is because I've seen people make remarks about DMX and his lyrics. All right. And that's the first thing I thought of. It was like, there's no proof that that's how he felt about any of the stuff that may have came off offensive. So unless you validate some of those things, you're completely guessing. You're reaching, and you're guessing based on his music that he wrote that may or may not be fictional. You don't even know. So you're playing a victim. Stop it. Stop being a victim. Just acknowledge that, you know, either you like the guy or you don't. That's a completely different topic. But don't judge the music and say, okay, this is offensive. He's totally an asshole. This is what he is because he rapped about this. You know what I mean? That's just not how it goes. Let's just treat it like the acting industry. So anyways, that turned into a rant. So I mainly just wanted to give kudos to DMX and highlight how impactful he was and how passionate he was and influential he was to the music industry. So that was it. Sad thing. Let's talk a little bit about... All right. So now I'm going to start reviewing... what I've been doing is kind of reviewing the people that I took notes on at the 10X GrowthCon when I went to Miami a few weeks back. And yeah, just going down the list here. The other two people here, I need to take a drink real quick and then we'll get rolling on this. All right. Man, that's good stuff. All right. Now, let me hook this so I can actually read it. Okay, so last week we talked about Pitbull, Armando Perez. Armando Perez. There we go. Got to roll them R's, right? So Pitbull, you might know him as Pitbull. Speaking of artists, I talked a lot about what he talked about. Super solid individual. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the music, but I am a fan of that guy and his mentality. He's very successful, and I like his positive mindset. All right. Let's the two people, since I only got short notes on both of them, I'll see if I can squeeze in both of their reviews. One of them is Grant Cardone's wife, Elena Cardone. She came up, did a little bit of speaking. Swan Sit, she's another individual that came up and started speaking. I'll talk a little bit about the things that she talked about and the things that are the bullet points that I captured in her speech. And yeah, see if we can elaborate a little bit on this. But before I do that, I did write down another GC quote. He said, have goals so big that your problems pale in comparison. I love that saying. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, having little problems, having big problems. You want big problems, all right? And this is exactly what we're talking about. Can you imagine that your goals are so big, so up there? You know what I mean? These are such huge goals, not out of the reach either. These are attainable. Attainable goals are so large that these little problems that present themselves along the way are just little itty bitty problems, mediocre problems, stuff to deal with. And that saying is just beautiful. Have goals so big that your problems pale in comparison. I mean, that just puts things in perspective, that you should be aiming for a higher purpose. All right. So Elena Cardone got on stage, started talking about some stuff. First thing I wrote down was that she actually valued this. She was talking about, she emphasized the meaning of standing behind the man. Support meaning being able to bear the weight. Basically what she was talking about, she was using herself as an example. She was talking about how she's a good support system for Grant Cardone, and she supports all his decisions, all the things that he does, and that she's there for him. And I thought that was beautiful, and she really just emphasized how important that is. I think we all know what's right, and we all hear things that people talk about, like, a good relationship is when people support each other and, they back each other up. They have a good support system. But she really emphasized it quite a bit, like how important that is. Even when something might seem like it's risky, something might seem like it's not right, maybe even, putting your trust. And there's a reason that you're with somebody. There should be a reason you're with somebody, and one of those reasons should be is because you trust them. The trust factor, I think, is huge for a relationship. Meaning, a man and a woman, or whatever, a loving relationship, a man and a man, woman and woman, whatever. You know what I'm saying here. A partnership. There should be a huge trust establishment that happens initially for you guys. You don't even have to be on the same page. You don't have to agree. Matter of fact, there's not one person that you're gonna agree with everybody on, and that's a whole nother subject I've been meaning to talk about. So I need to write that down before I forget. But yeah, but basically what I was writing down was the people that can't have a conversation with somebody unless they fully agree with them, unless they're in complete alignment with what their viewpoints are. That shit is getting really annoying and pretty frustrating to me. When someone can't continue the conversation, or they think like they can't even connect with that person, they can't have any conversation, you're never going to fully agree with somebody. And even if you're looking for somebody to have the majority of the viewpoints be relatable and in agreement with, it's not realistic to think that you're always going to have relationships like that in your life. And it's very unhealthy to only seek out those relationships that you're in full agreement with. All right, you should learn. I mean, this is my opinion. This is completely my opinion. So this is going to be subjective to people, but I think it's very important to have relationships with people that you disagree with things upon. There's growth in those type of relationships, because you can have a conversation of viewpoints. You know what I mean? It doesn't always, and yes, I talk a lot about, when you have a conversation with somebody, it's basically having two separate frames. One of those frames consumes another frame. But that doesn't mean in a relationship that it needs to be one person outframing the other person. You can acknowledge like, hey, we probably aren't going to ever agree on this, but I would encourage people to try to look for ways to respect the opinion, even if it's not something you value. And that is really hard for people to do these days, it seems like. To actually respect somebody's opinion that is not in alignment with your values and what you think is right. But when you do that, it's really hard. And when you do that these days, it says a lot about you. It doesn't mean you're bowing down. It doesn't mean you're bending over. It doesn't mean you're supplicating. It just means that you acknowledge like, okay, you have a different viewpoint and you have a strong position on this. I actually respect that. It doesn't mean you have to, completely check out or be like, okay, I cannot talk to this person because we don't agree with that. Now, I can understand like if there's a person that you don't agree with anything about, it's going to be a little bit harder to have a conversation with that person. Absolutely. But then again, that doesn't happen that often either. You know what I mean? You might actually find out that people have more in common than we think, even the ones that have a majority of their viewpoints not in alignment with your viewpoints. And so, but it says a lot about a person when you can say, okay, we don't agree on this. I completely don't agree on this. Even after having a conversation of enlightenment, like, okay, I want to know why you think that. Try to enlighten me. I want to see if I can come on board with that. I'm going to give it a shot. And then if you don't, and you still come to the conclusion like, hey, you know what? I'm actually still not going to agree with this, but I respect the shit out of your viewpoint. That says a lot about that individual. It really does. And I think we need to, I wish there were more people like that. And when there are people like that, I respect that too. I'm like, holy shit, this person, he doesn't care what other people think. He understands that they got their own viewpoint, and he's not going to be poopy pants about the situation because they don't agree with what they're saying. All right. That's another mentality that's just bad to be involved in. All right. So something that we can hopefully focus on and encourage people to be better at. All right. So yeah, I digressed a little bit. Let's go to the other. I don't know how I got onto that topic. We started out with her emphasizing the meaning of because we're talking about partnerships and being a support system. And then I started talking about people being in alignment. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you're not completely in alignment, even with their decision making. If you've made a decision to trust this individual, then trust them and support them fully. And that's going to be a huge relationship builder and a bonding agent within that relationship is that trust. All right. She also said you either are creating or destroying your empire with every decision you make. And this is relative to what I said earlier. And I've said before that you're not staying the same in life, in business, in relationships, and anything you do. If you're not working on being better at something, you are getting worse. You're not treading water. You're not sitting there in a stagnant area. There's no stalemate. There's no average. There's no, okay, I'm just fine with this. You're getting worse. If you're in that area and you think you're going to stay in that area, you're getting worse because you haven't made the commitment to get better at it. And so really relative to what she's saying, but she's being specific about an empire. So an empire can be your business. She was probably referring to business. I would take it a step further and say this isn't anything. Business, relationships, everything in your life that you're involved in. If you're not working on creating something, working on bettering something, you're destroying it. And I think Glenn Sanford also talked a lot about this as well. So yeah, You're either creating it or destroying it. You need to acknowledge that stuff so that you can make a decision on what you're going to do, because staying in the middle there is going backwards and is destroying it. All right. She also said, you can be trusted to deliver on your role in the relationship when you're with someone you trust first. Okay, that's exactly what I just said. Which is basically, trust your partner, and commit to that, and just have faith that they're gonna make the right decision, even if it may seem like it's not the right decision. You got to put that trust in there. And then what she specifically said was that you can be trusted to deliver on the outcome positively. You can be trusted to deliver on your role, more importantly, in the relationship when you're with someone you can trust first. So just kind of ties back into what we were saying. The last thing that I wrote down was, she said, become an asset to yourself, your family, and your business. That's pretty good, actually. And me and my daughter talk a lot about assets, liabilities, business debt, consumer debt. Yes, I have these conversations with my 8-year-old daughter. She's very knowledgeable when it comes to what I just said: business debt, consumption debt, assets, liabilities. These are all things that are important to me. And so I think it's beneficial to start teaching her these things at a young age, so that when she starts handling money, and she starts making those decisions down her career path and what she wants to do with her life, she's going to remember all these conversations, and she's going to remember how valuable it is. It's going to help her in her life. I truly believe that. I wish someone would have actually taken me under their wing and had the beneficial talks that I'm having with my daughter with me. I really wish that. I wish I could have fathered myself. Fathered myself with the mindset I have now, that is. Not fathered myself at 28. But yeah, we talk a lot about assets and liabilities, and this concept was introduced to me first when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. A couple years now. I think it's probably been 2.5 years now I read that. And that's when it was brought to light to me, is like, okay, what is an asset? I didn't even know what an asset and a liability was. I've heard the saying, I've heard it, in business. When I worked for the company I worked for 10 years, people, referred to me as being an asset to the company. And I knew what it meant, but I didn't actually know what it meant. The true definition of an asset and a liability. In case you don't know, I'm going to enlighten you. A liability takes money out of your pockets. An asset puts money in your pocket. That's it. And so when you actually know the fundamentals of what it is, you can identify things in your life that are assets and liabilities. And you can find out, you can think like, okay, what's important in my life? Do I want more assets in my life? Do I want things that actually bring me money? Or do I want to just be my life a life of liabilities and consumption, and me just taking and losing? So once I actually acknowledged liabilities and assets, it was kind of a game changer for me as well. And so that's what she's saying: become an asset to yourself, your family, and your business. When she's saying become an asset to yourself, what does that mean? Skills, knowledge, invest in yourself. Find out what you want to be involved in, find out what interests you, find out what your values are, and then invest in things that are going to contribute to those things that you want to actually be involved in and that you actually value. There's just no other way to put it. Be an asset to your family. What does that mean? Provide value to your family. What's an example of that? Like me talking to my daughter about the knowledge that I get by investing in myself. I spend thousands of dollars on myself and education, and I'll get to that here when I get to the viral viewpoint. I'll tell you exactly how much money I've spent and how much time I've spent on it as well. But this is stuff that, as humans, when we learn stuff, our natural instinct is we want to share it, right? We want to share it, especially if we feel like it's valuable, and especially if we feel like it can contribute to friends or family and it's someone we care about. We want to share it with them. That's a way I contribute, and I'm an asset to my daughter. I'm teaching her the things that have helped me in my life, the things that I learn, even the things that I just learned. I mean, she's sitting here watching motivational videos with me and self-improvement videos with me every morning. Every morning we watch videos. You know, she's been doing this with me for a while now, probably almost a year now, where I've consistently committed to doing this stuff every morning. She's there with me. We're eating cereal together and we're watching these videos. Some of it's above her head, but who cares? She'll understand it. She'll remember it. She's actually starting to pick up a lot of it. And things that she doesn't understand, she questions me, and that tells me she's interested. That's the type of stuff that makes me excited. You know, when she asks me, like, what's that mean? What's this mean? What's that mean? I'll pause the video. I'm like, this means this. This means that. Sometimes she'll ask me stuff that I don't even know. She's like, what's that mean? I'm like, well, I don't know. Let's Google it. And good old Google is there to the rescue, and we learn together. So that's an asset. That's an example of being an asset to your family, contributing and giving. And then an asset to your business. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Focus on things. Businesses rely on money. The only way to scale a business is to get more money, more income, and so to focus on what she said, being an asset to your business, you need to learn how to bring in more money to the business so that you can scale, so that you can provide more value to your customers, the community, so that you can be, you have to have money in order to actually help people when it comes to a business. I mean, there's just no way around it. Businesses require a lot of overhead, a lot of payroll, a lot of taxes. And in order for you to be a positive business that is there to provide great customer service, not just the cliche bullshit great customer service saying, but actually over delivering solid customer service, doing the things that other companies aren't doing, going that extra mile, having that can do, will do, no problem attitude that I was talking about earlier. That's the stuff that sets you apart. I just sold a couple jobs today and had a conversation with one of those individuals that I sold the job to about this very thing. And he said, look, Ben, I only like doing business with people who are passionate about their work, and I can tell that you're passionate. He's like, the fact that I can tell that you put in a lot of energy into this, you're very passionate about it, and you're very vocal about it, and you got a lot of energy. He's like, that's why I chose to do business with you. He's like, I don't just do business with anybody. And so that's an example of how I'm able to be an asset for my company, because I've thought of ways to bring more income into the company by setting those kind of examples, by being that positive influence, by being so confident, by being proud, by over delivering. Instead of just thinking about what can I get out of this? How can I get more money? Instead of being money focused, even though I'm saying money will follow things you over deliver on. So don't get this confused with me saying that you need to bring in a ton of money. You need to be focused on money. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is money is the focus, but in order to get that, you do need to over deliver first. Money's going to follow that. Money's going to follow that kind of attention. You over deliver, the money's going to come in. Now that the money's there, you can focus on being a great company without having the stress of how to pay bills, how to, combat these petty things that takes businesses down. And so there is a process, but it can easily get confusing. You know what I mean? It's because yes, money is important. You need money to scale, but it shouldn't be your primary focus first. You need to be able to have a passion for what you're doing. You need to be able to provide service for people, and then the money's going to follow it. It really does. All right, so that kind of wraps up her review. Let's get into Swansit. Swansit was a woman who's basically been in the digital marketing world. She's a very well-known digital marketing consultant now. I think she did a lot of stuff for Nike. God, I can't remember. A lot of big name businesses that she did some digital marketing campaigns for. And so I think she's even in like the pharmaceutical company, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't really take any pharmaceuticals, any type of drugs personally, but you know, in her mind, she might actually be helping somebody. She might actually be helping something, not even in her mind. She might really be helping somebody. I don't know. But she is definitely a powerhouse. She's made some very big moves and big decisions, smart decisions in her life. And so let's talk about some of the things that she was talking about. This is more business related because obviously she's a marketing consultant. So this is going to be real relative to business, but doesn't mean it can't. Everything that you can apply to business, you can apply to your life. I found this out. I just dabbled with it and played with it. I was like, holy shit, all these beneficial skills can be applied to life easy, and they make your life better. They have definitely get you that internal dialogue the positive internal dialogue that you should be having with yourself. So first thing she says, know your customer and speak to their values. Again, that can be interpreted to people, know your whatever, know your brother and speak to his values. It literally can be at any, know your partner and speak to their values. Not saying that you always have to be in alignment with their values, but understand the values that they do have and see if you can connect with that, right? Same thing, same concept. Know your customer, speak to their values. Same type of thing with my business. I point out the things that they're struggling with, the pain, as they call it in sales. When you focus on the pain someone's having and how you're going to solve that pain, what kind of solution you have for that pain, that problem. Same concept. She also says, don't focus entirely on branding. I've been guilty of this. I was so heavily focused on branding for a while, and I'm big on branding. I am, but I think there's definitely you can easily get wrapped up in the branding so much that you lose the connection with your audience and the people that your prospects. And so that's why she's kind of pointing that out. Don't focus on just your branding. You got people buy from people. And so they don't buy from a brand. Yes, they do buy from a brand, but that's just the first step. The brand is just to get people to know you. Now they need to know you. They need to know the people that run it. Who are they going to make a decision with? Who are they going to do business with? And when we're talking about this in a relationship setting, who are you going to ever, in order to have a relationship with somebody, you got to know them. You're not just going to have, if brands were all we cared about, then people would just walk around with a brand sticker, wearing a mask with their brand on their face, and we wouldn't even have a conversation. That's just not the case. People are people. They buy on emotion. They have relationships with people on emotion. And so you need to have that connection. Businesses are built by, she said the exact same thing. Businesses are built by people and you should treat them right. I actually enjoy that. I appreciate that statement because I think she's talking about a boss perspective. In the position of being a boss and a leader, you shouldn't be a douchebag. You shouldn't be a person who treats your employees or people that actually are in your team, on your team, rather. You don't treat them like shit. You acknowledge them. Not only do people do business with people, but people work with people. They don't work for a brand unless you're... And a good example of this is... I'm going to drop some company names. Let's call it Wally World. We all know, I can say it, right? Walmart. Let's just say Walmart. Let's use Walmart as an example. Walmart, they're a corporation. A lot of these corporations, they don't have any connection with their employees, right? They are a corporation. They want to pay the least to the employees. They want you to do the most. They don't give a shit about you. They might seem as though they do, but you can ask any Walmart employee what their experience is like, and if they were treated like an actual human being while they work there, and 9 times out of 10, they probably had a very bad experience. I've never met a Walmart employee who's ecstatic and very thrilled to be a part of that organization. So it's just an example. In my experience anyway, as far as what I've witnessed with that company. And so that's one end. The other end is the way I operate my business. I like to talk to people in my company that work for me. I like to know them on a personal level. I want them to know they can talk to me about some things. I don't want them to dump their problems on me. I don't want them to use me as a soundboard for their problems, but I do want to know what's going on with them and maybe potentially how I can help. More importantly, I want to know how I can contribute. If there's anything I can do to help. Because again, this goes back to me being a problem solver. I'm a problem solver. I'm a problem solver for my customers. I'm a problem solver for my employees. I want to make sure things are getting taken care of. I want to get in front of it. I want to make sure there's nothing going unacknowledged. I don't want things to just fall on the wayside and not get taken care of. I want to make sure I'm running a tight operation and things are getting addressed, particularly the things that need addressed, things that are necessary to handle. I want that to happen consistently. And so that's the difference. I think I operate my business on a very opposite spectrum that Walmart operates their business. All right. Let's see here. Be a combination of being, I like this. Be a combination of being intimidating and kind. I actually like that quite a bit. And she was actually talking about Grant Cardone. She's like, he comes off, he can come off pretty aggressive, very vocal, very confident, and maybe even borderline intimidating, right? But on the other hand, he is a very kind individual. He's very easy to talk to. He's compassionate, and he treats people like people. All right. I don't think, I think that's a huge when you can combine those two and balance it just right, it's very attractive. Not like sexy attractive. Just being able to connect with a human being attractive. Like, there's something about that guy I like. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a very he's got a viewpoint. He stands, his position is this, and he believes in that. There is no wiggle room in that. But on the other hand, he's very compassionate with your situation, and he wants to help. And there's something attractive about that type of mentality, in people in general. I think I might even be, I'm not comparing myself to Grant Cardone at all, but I think I may also come off as being intimidating sometimes. But I think I actually I have a couple of these qualities, or at least at some points in my life, I display these two qualities. I might come off as being intimidating. I might come off as being a little bit aggressive, maybe even persistent and pushy. But on the other hand, I do care about people, and I care about helping people, and I don't want to be a douchebag. Not because I care about what people think about me necessarily, but I just don't value that. I don't want to be that for me. I care about what I think about myself a lot. And I do not want to be a douchebag. And I referenced the way I was treated as an employee when I worked for companies, and I wasn't shit. Especially when I worked, referencing the company I worked for last, I worked 10 years for that company. I made shit. I made very little money, and I wasn't acknowledged very much. And I was just, I was just kind of an employee. There's nothing more to it. I was an employee. I didn't get acknowledged at all. And so that just kind of, I treat my company and I treat my employees in the company different. And so when I have my company meetings at the office, I bring people in, and I'm pretty assertive about my viewpoints. And I talk about what I want done, what I don't want done, how I think, it should be ran, what we need to focus on to be efficient. And then furthermore, when I tie it all together at the very end, I bring it down and talk about myself and kind of get a little more kind about it, and bring it, basically ask questions like, okay guys, if there's anything I can do to be better, if there's anything that this company can work on to be more efficient, if there's anything that can be helpful from you guys, let me know. Because I'm here to grow as well. I'm here, I'm still learning. we're a team. And so I need your guys' help. We're in this together. There's something that, some kind of constructive criticism that you can give me in your opinion, give it to me. I want to hear it. And so I tell them this at the end of the meeting. If there's something I can work on, let's do it. So yeah, I think the intimidation, if you can be a combination of intimidating and kind, very good combination. You can get some things done that way. Now, she said this: people can only remember 3 things at a time. Decide what you want to be known for. So that's pretty good advice. Matter of fact, I'm going to think about the 3 things I want to be known for, and 3 things I want to be known for. I love questions like that. Thought-provoking questions. All right. And I'll have an answer for that maybe next podcast. All right. Ask friends, family, or business contacts what. Oh, this is great. This is an exercise. Dude, I actually like this quite a bit. So she says, people can only remember 3 things at a time. Decide what you want to be known for. Now, follow up with people and say, just call out friends and family and your business contacts and say, hey, what are 3 things that you guys know about me? Man, this is cool because this gives you a little insight as to what kind of impression you're making as well. And if it's in alignment with what you want to be known for. Very cool. You guys should try that too. What are 3 things that you want to be known for? And call your friends and family or any business contacts and ask them what they know you for. It's kind of fun. That sounds like actually a fun little assignment. All right. Last thing she said, marketing is about your consumers feeling like they get you. So I think that's very powerful stuff. Also, again, the majority of it is business related. But even that, saying marketing is about your consumers feeling like they get you. Even, let's just think about this on a micro level example. Let's talk about like Instagram, right? Or Facebook. We're gonna specifically talk about Instagram though. Instagram is just a picture post, right? A lot of it is just picture-based posts and then a little bit of script writing below it. It's marketing. You're marketing yourself. So if the things that you're marketing, the image of yourself that you're putting out there is not relatable, is not anything that people can relate to or don't understand, or they see it or hear it or read it and they're thinking like, yeah, I don't get this. It's not doing anything for me. You're not connecting with anybody. You're just another person that's just posting pictures. If you're just a person posting pictures, then you're really not connecting with anybody. So I would encourage you that if you're trying to post any type of pictures, chances are most likely you're trying to market yourself. All right, some kind of aspect, you are marketing yourself, and I would encourage that. So if you're gonna market yourself, go whole hog on that thing. Like, lean into it, market yourself, do some scripted text, do a video, let people know what you're about. Really try to think of ways to connect with people. And I think you'd be surprised that, like I said earlier, we have more in common than we think we do. And I think that's very important to acknowledge and to be aware of. And so, very important advice, because that's not just business related. Like I said, you see how I use that as an example, though? Can definitely be applied to your business. Marketing is about feeling like your customers get you. And I'll do, when it comes to my business, I'll do a lot of live feed videos where I'm walking on a job site, or I'll be talking about, business or talk about things on job site reasons why someone would want to have the product that we provide. What kind of benefits are going to get. I try to think of things that are relatable, and things that they can get. And I think more importantly, what she's talking about is when she says consumers, marketing is about your consumers feeling like they get you. Just be real. Try not to come off as being like a sales pitchy script reading drone. Like, try to personalize it as much as you can. And if there is a script for you to follow, try to memorize the script and then form it into, there's a structure. Keep the structure, but form it in a way that is more personalized, and it sounds like you're an actual human being that's having a conversation with somebody. And then you can be relatable. People can get you. They'll be like, hey, I can, if they can picture themselves having a conversation with you in real life, when you're doing digital marketing, that's a good thing. That's what they need to be able to do is like look at a video of somebody and say, oh yeah, I can totally imagine me having a conversation with this guy in real life. There's been times where I've done videos and I've made sales. I think I've talked about this before, but I'll have people, I'll go do an appointment and make a what they call in the sales industry a slam dunk, a lay down, a quick sale, an easy sale. And then I'll come to find out that they've seen a video of me, and they already made their mind up by seeing a video of me that they were going to do business with me. And why was that? It's because they got a connection from me. They felt like they got me. And then when I showed up, validated that by actually having a conversation with them on a normal level, it solidified it for them. And it was easy for them to make that decision. They're like, okay, this guy's exactly what we were thinking. I've had people, that happened quite a bit, actually. There's one time I remember someone saying after I already made the sale to them, she was like, I feel like I know you. And I had to point it out. I was like, it's probably because you've seen my videos on our site, because I do a lot of live videos where I'm breaking down the fourth wall. I'm talking to my consumers quite a bit. She's like, oh yeah, I think I have actually. She didn't even realize it. So a lot of this stuff could be subconscious behavior too. You know what I mean? You might have seen content with somebody on it. When you see a video of someone talking and you see them in real life, there's a familiarity. God, I hope I said that right. That's really hard. Familiarity about that. A familiar feeling. Let's just say that. There's a feeling of being familiar with someone when you see them in real life, and vice versa. There was a guy I met in the 10X Growth Conference, and a real recognizable face, real likable guy. Had a conversation with him, and I met so many people there. This was the first night, and we exchanged, contacts. Instagram usually was kind of the go-to for exchanging contact info for people. And then I seen him on my Instagram, and I was like, God, where do I know that guy? He looks so familiar. And I had to think about it quite a bit. And I was like, there's only one place I could have met him. Either I've known him for some time, or I probably met him at the 10X Growth Con. And I had to ask him, I sent him a message like, hey man, where have I met you? Where do I know you from? This is bothering me big time, and I apologize for not remembering. Did I meet you at the Growth Con? And he was like, yeah man, I met you at the Growth Conference. And then we laughed it off. I was like, oh, I knew it. Okay, sorry about that, man. Like I said, I met a lot of people. But there was that, in a reverse example scenario, I recognized him. I met him in real life first and got the impression, by talking to him. And then fast forward a couple weeks later, I seen him on my Instagram, and then I had the familiarity of his face and his speaking and his voice. He's got a very unique and memorable impression about him. I was like, I know him from somewhere. And so I felt like I knew him. I don't know him that well, but I did meet him in real life. And so same concept, but just a reverse scenario there. So being relatable is huge. Just being able to actually connect with somebody and not sound like a fucking robot and a drone and a script reader, right? Okay, well that wraps up the two guest speakers for the GrowthCon review for today. Next week I'm going to talk about Pete Vargas and if we have time, I'll get into Tyrese Gibson's his bullet points. Tyrese Gibson was good. P. Vargas, really good guy too. So yeah, we'll get into that next week. So I kind of went too far, and so I didn't get into the viral viewpoint, unfortunately. And let me just skim through this. It basically, I can sum it up. The path to your purpose will not be found in your comfort zone. I talked a lot about this in the Contagious combo. All right. If you're looking to grow, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to look for those things that make you uncomfortable, face it, power through it, get to the other side, and accomplish something. All right. Now this is what I'm saying. You may need to even invest time and money into yourself. All right. Grant Cardone said this, and I remember these things. These little sayings I always remember. Those who pay attention. It's totally true. When I invest thousands of dollars in myself, now I'm invested. And now I'm going to pay attention to the stuff that I deem valuable and that's going to actually help me. This might shock you guys, but I've spent over $40,000 in self-improvement content in the last 3 years. Literally. I just spent $30,000. $30,000 of it was just in the last month. All right. Just on self-improvement skills and knowledge. Now, to some people that might sound like a lot of money. Like, oh my God, you spent that much money. Oh my God, you got scammed. Oh my God, you're buying into a scheme. Oh my God, all these excuses, all these naysayers, all the negativity is going to be projected when people hear that initially, right? And I might have said the same thing years ago too, in my 20s, when I heard if someone told me that, like, yeah, I spent $30,000, $40,000 on my education, on seminars, content, conferences, growth cons, things like that. But I'm invested in the things that I have spent money on have provided me value in my life. There's things that I've accomplished that I never would have accomplished had I not paid attention and actually bought into some of this stuff that's actually made a huge impact in my life. All right. And so might be something to consider if you're looking to really expand your horizon, expand your capabilities, grow. I mean, that's the key word. If you're looking to grow, look at somebody who's done things more than you, preferably someone who's faced a lot of adversity, someone who's went through a lot of struggles and overcame them. And, if they are selling a product, selling their time to you, you might have to pay for it. Pay for it so that you can actually be invested in it. If you're going to pay for it, chances are you're going to actually pay attention to it because you paid for it. It's going to be valuable to you. It's going to be even more valuable to you when you do it too. So, but yeah, that's really the sum of the viral viewpoint. I just wanted to emphasize how much I've invested into myself and how much I value that and how much it's worth it. Totally worth it. Now, by the way, when I was at 10X Growth Con, I heard people talk about how they've spent $250,000, maybe even $500,000 on their own education and being, in seminars, being in programs, being in content consumption. So it's not that much when you're talking about, if I'm able to scale let's just use numbers. If I'm able to scale my business from $100,000 of gross revenue to $2.5 million of gross revenue in a year, and I've invested $30,000, $40,000 into myself, wouldn't you say that's worth it? I would. The amount of income is going to pay for itself, right? And it doesn't even stop there. That's just the start of it. It can just keep going and going and going. And I heard a lot of these cases when I was actually there. There's a ton of people, just average people, average small business owners that have actually taken their business and made huge jumps. So let's get into the rant really quick. So real quick, I did an interview. I set up an interview. I put out a couple applications for jobs, one of them being a carpenter, one of them being a receptionist, because I needed someone to actually answer all these calls that I'm getting and kind of be an assistant. And if they wanted to even go out and sell and make some money. I mean, there's a lot of money that you can make in this. My sales rep does very well, and I pay pretty decently, and your limit is only you. So the ability to, and what's funny is I provide a ton of sales content that I take that's available to my sales reps. My sales rep doesn't even want to get involved in it because he's 70 years old and he's kind of set in his ways, so I don't really push it on him. But I'm looking for a sales rep that I can kind of train into the same kind of type of training that I've been doing that's been very efficient and successful. So I set up an appointment for, and preferably I would like to have a female on the crew, just because I've heard of like proven statistics about females actually accomplish quite a bit more. And these are statistics. I don't know why, but these are facts. I think it was Kevin O'Leary that talked about this, and I talked about it in one of the podcasts, that 90% of women in the sales industry actually are more productive than men. And men actually, I guess, what is it was something like women get 90% of the work done more efficiently, and 65% of men get the work done more efficiently. So they're just 25% more efficient and productive than men. I don't know why that is, and I don't care. All I know is it makes sense to get a female on the crew and to kind of diversify in that regard a little bit. Anyways, I set up an interview for the first woman that was going to be on the crew, and she no-showed me. I was like, wow. We set it up. She seemed pretty excited, and I was like, can you meet me here this time? She's like, oh yeah, for sure. That should have been my first indication. Anytime someone says for sure, usually means it's not for sure. That should have been my first sign. So, but yeah, I took the time out to go downtown to my office. I don't do my interviews at my house office, which is what you're looking at. I have a downtown official office that I go to where I do my interviews and where I have people come over for small home show and display examples. She didn't show up at all. No call, no show. I'm like, Jesus Christ, people, come on. I was like, if you can't make it, if you're not interested, do not stand somebody up, and definitely don't have a business owner carve out the time to meet you. This is just another example of how people are disrespectful to businesses. They won't get back to you. I mean, I don't have to deal with this much now, but you've heard me complain about this earlier, about how I'd go and do bids for somebody and then email them the proposal. They wouldn't answer my calls. They wouldn't answer my voicemails. They wouldn't answer my emails. They'd ghost me. And I spent 5-6 hours on their project. Disrespectful as shit. They don't care. They think businesses are just set up to lose money, I guess. Same thing when you're interviewing people. They don't realize the time you got to take to actually go down there and interview somebody. Super fucking disrespectful. So yeah, that upset me. That irritated me. Why are people doing that? Like, can we not be passive? Tell people no, be assertive, tell people what's on your mind. If you're not wanting to do it, don't say for sure and then not show up. Just say, you know what, actually, I didn't mean to apply for this job. I don't know what it is, but I changed my mind. Change your mind. We're human beings. It's okay. Don't stand somebody up and waste somebody's time. That is the ultimate way to disrespect somebody. Like, I'm a family. I'm a single dad. I could be spending my time with my daughter. I could be, luckily I didn't have to rearrange too much, but in the event that I would have had to really rearrange stuff to get my daughter situated, that would have been a hassle, right? So yeah, super annoying. God, can we stop doing that? The millennials, whoever's doing this, it's probably not just the millennials, just people in general. Learn how to say no, learn how to be assertive, learn how to tell people what's on your mind, and stop being disrespectful, stop wasting people's time. It sucks. All right, so before I go over the 2-hour mark, I don't want to not be able to get this on Spotify, because if I do, that's what happens. Quick question of the day is, what is one thing that makes you uncomfortable, right? Think about one thing that makes you uncomfortable. Now, what is one action that you can do to get used to that one thing? Very specific questions, very specific. What is one thing that makes you uncomfortable? What is one action that you can do to get you used to that one thing that makes you uncomfortable? All right, think about that. Try to overcome it, practice with it, experiment with it. You got years of life left, so it's not gonna hurt you to try these exercises out. You will be shocked how good you feel after overcoming these uncomfortable situations, all right? So I'm gonna get out of here real quick here. You can find live podcast streams on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, posted content, Spotify, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a like, give me a follow, share it, subscribe to it. Give me a heart emoji, give me some love. Let's spread the love and keep the momentum rolling, all right? So I'm gonna get out of here. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to anybody who's been watching this and being a part of this episode. Really appreciate it. Thanks for a little bit of feedback there, Parker. And then I'll take a look at the Opie and Anthony. I've never heard of it, so it intrigues me now, and so I'll check it out and get back to you. So yeah, that wraps it up for episode 66. I will see you guys next Saturday at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So have a fantastic week. But until then, keep it contagious and keep it viral. Bye, guys.